You made me what I am today. You know that.
Hi, Mr. Dressup.
Mr. Dress Up means a lot to a lot of people, not only in Canada, but around the world. Joining me is Rob McCallum. Rob has directed a documentary about Mr. Dress Up called Mr. Dress Up, The Magic of Make-Believe. Rob, thanks for joining us. Great to have you here. First of all, how are you enjoying the festival experience?
It's overwhelming. You would think that you would get used to showing a film that you've been working on for a couple years and seeing a million cuts, but every time an audience sees it, it's overwhelming, it's mind-blowing, it's emotionally numbing because it's just so much to process. Taking this film out on the road, sharing it with audiences has been the highlight of my career, without a doubt.
As I say, Mr. Dress Up has had an impact on so many people's lives. But for you, what was it about Mr. Dress Up, Ernie Coombs, that resonated with you? And why did you want to make this documentary?
There's a bunch of reasons why the documentary had to be made, and the impetus for all of it was my kids. I wanted to show them something that I had grown up with, of course, because dad's got to feed and pass things down to the next generation, and 9 times out of 10, that never works. But in this case, showing Mr. Dress Up really paid off, and both my kids, as much as they love everything nowadays, they really ate up Mr. Dress Up, and they were there every moment through every section. Didn't waver at all. And I thought there's some sort of magic there, some sort of power that isn't just the kind of thing from yesterday in a dated format that I loved, that had me hooked with, a loving adult on screen who had all the time in the world for his puppet friends and the kids that would come and visit. It was all about creative exploration. And that's the kind of stuff that kind of developed me into who I am today. It's the best.
Of all the things that you said were the reasons that it had to be made, was there one magic moment that made you open up that tickle trunk and do this?
Yeah, my son, I asked him what he thought of the show, and he said it's good. And then he turned to me, a 5-year-old, said, if my little sister, who was 2 at the time, watches this, then maybe she'll grow up and be a good person. And I thought, after watching just one episode, you can distill the values of this show, and you can tell me how you feel about it, and you realize the impact it's going to have on your sister and how she might be a good person, and then therefore contribute to the world in a good way. How do we not explore this topic more, right? And of course, there was no documentary on it already done, so we got to get the word out. We got to remind people about the power of kindness and compassion.
In the process of making this documentary, researching it, speaking to the people that you did, Ernie's children and things of that nature, was there something that you learned about Ernie Coombs, the man, that you didn't know before?
There's a lot that I didn't know. I didn't realize that he struggled in his entire career until he was 40. He was doing anything he could to make ends meet, any job. He wanted to be an artist. He went to school to be a commercial artist after high school. It didn't pan out. He spent a lot of time in theater, working on the stage, behind the stage, sometimes both in a show. He'd go out for a quick bit and then go back downstairs and paint scenery. He just tirelessly worked, and he did it because he loved it. I'm sure he could have got an office job that had a stable income, but it didn't feed his soul. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And when he was 40, he finally hit his stride and got the role of Mr. Dress Up.
With so many people being so aware of the show, the character, the man, who he was, what were some of the things that you were really aware of making this to kind of make sure that people got to know the man that Ernie Coombs, Mr. Dress Up, was?
Well, it was really important the way that I presented the material. A lot of people had concerns about, is this going to be sugar-coated? Is it going to be too saccharine of a subject to display? Will it resonate? Will it actually truly entertain if it's as good as we all remember? Because it's one thing to go down memory lane and have, a talk about it or listen to a podcast that details the history. It's a whole other thing to have a feature-length film. And so my approach was, we just got to put it on display. We got to be a little bit raw with it. We've just got to be able to showcase it and let the content and let the people, in their comments stand for themselves. And when you do that, the genuineness shines through, much like the show. That show works because we believe Ernie and Casey and Finnegan are real people, because they were improvising, and there was that real rapport back and forth. It wasn't heavily scripted. And so for the documentary to work, this had to be raw and had to be on display and kind of the naked truth of everything that was out there. And when you do that, people realize that you're not trying to fool them. You're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. And then they can see the thing that they loved and then learn why they loved it even more.
if you could be a fly on the wall in the theater as the credits roll and the documentary is done and people are talking about it, what things would you like to hear people say about your documentary?
I'd love for people to take away the need to be kind today and tomorrow, to be patient and stop worrying about what comes next, to reflect on what made them who they are and why that matters, and hold that closer to their heart rather than racing to the next thing. Because I don't think we do that. I think we're always so worried about the next deadline. We're always so worried about the next thing that's coming that we never get to appreciate the moment that we're in or where we've come from. And this film is a great reason to look back, in a great way to remember, hey, this doesn't have to stay in the past. We don't necessarily need a film to tell us this. We can take that going forward and just live a little bit slower and just live a little bit more in the moment and soak it up a bit. Last
thing before we wrap up with you here, Rob, you know, filmmaking is such an endeavor, a journey, and, you know, an act of passion for so many filmmakers. When you were done and you saw the final product, what went through your mind?
I need a vacation. That's what kind of went through my mind right away. I mean, jokes aside, it was so lovely to be able to have a film that you're so proud of, right? And this is in advance of any reviews, any reaction. The team sat and we watched it and we just thought, yeah, this works. We're happy with it. It achieved everything that we set out to accomplish. And we've done justice to Ernie Coombs and the entire Mr. Dress Up cast and crew. And knowing that even before the audience sees it is all any artist can ask for, right?
Obviously screening at the Atlantic International Film Festival, but it's also going to be on Prime Video. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's very exciting to bring the film to Halifax at the Atlantic International Film Festival. Halifax has quickly made its way into my favorite Canadian city. And I'm not just saying that because we're going to be there on Saturday, but it truly is. It feels like a home away from home. I've filmed there several times for production, so exciting to make a return. But for everybody that can't make it, you get to check out this film October 10th, Tuesday, October 10th, globally on Prime Video. And it'll unite Canada coast to coast to coast, much like that Mr. Dress Up show did. So grab some popcorn, maybe some Kleenex, and just sit back and enjoy the ride down memory lane and kind of bring it all with you forward.
I, like many, can't wait to open up that tickle trunk and witness Mr. Dress Up, the magic of make-believe. Rob McCallum, director of the documentary, thanks for your time and continued success with the doc.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me, and I can't wait to be in Halifax to share this film.
Batten down the hatches and come on visit.
You got it.
Thanks, Rob.